While anxiety can manifest across all personality types, specific traits can play a role in the equation. So, the personality types are broken into five broad dimensions by the Big Five model. The Big Five personality model is a scientific framework used to describe human personality. It breaks personality down into five broad traits, each existing on a spectrum from low to high. It emerged in the 1918 through the work of multiple researchers. Contributors are Louis Goldberg, Robert McCree, and Paul Costa. It was based on decades of earlier studies using a factor analysis, which is a statistical method that identified common patterns in how people describe personality. The first factor is um, openness to experience. So it reflects the degree of intellectual curiosity, creativity, and preference for novelty and variety a person has. So typically, high openness will lead the person to be creative, curious about the world and other people, open to new experiences, ideas, and unconventional values. Enjoy art, abstract thinking, and philosophical discussions. And on the other hand, low openness will lead the other person to be conventional and prefers routine, a narrower range of interests, resistant to change, a particular and concrete thinker. So, how high openness affects anxiety disorders? First, it increases cognitive flexibility, which means rather than catastrophizing situations and threats, they might reframe it positively or at least neutrally. For example, they might view an upcoming presentation as a chance to grow rather than a granted failure. Second, they are linked with greater tolerance for ambiguity, and individuals who tolerate ambiguity better are less likely to interrupt uncertain events as threatening or to seek compulsive reassurance like checking social media or rethinking the situations over and over, as clearly seen in general anxiety disorder and OCD. As a result, this trait may help reduce anticipatory anxiety, which often feeds panic and worry cycles. Third, it increases self reflection and rumination. They are more likely to engage in philosophical thinking, which can promote growth. Fourth, sensitivity to aesthetic and emotional experiences. They are associated with greater emotional uh, responsiveness to beauty, art, and ideas. This emotional richness can provide deep satisfaction. Fifth, better adaptation to novelty. High openness predicts greater willingness to try new coping strategies, such as mindfulness therapy or alternative worldviews. These individuals may be more receptive to psychological treatment, particularly third wave therapies like um, acceptance and commitment therapy or mindfulness based cognitive therapy, which emphasize perspective, talking, and self awareness. So it can enhance resilience and treatment outcomes in various anxiety disorders. Now we want to know how low openness affects anxiety disorders. First, it reduces cognitive flexibility. Yeah, it is the contrast. So, low openness individuals tend to think in rigid, structured patterns, making them less capable of considering alternative perspectives when facing uncertainty or threat. This inflexibility may amplify rumination or cognitive distortions, such as such as all or nothing thinking, catastrophizing, which commonly seen in anxiety disorders. And it may increase risk of avoidant behaviors and anticipatory anxiety, common in panic disorder, GAD, which is a general anxiety disorder, and OCD. Third, practical thinking limits abstract ones. Listen, literal thinkers may struggle with abstract or philosophical reframing, which can be helpful to process trauma or anxiety triggers. For example, if someone I loved hurt me, I can adapt the core belief of that. This defines them, not me. But people who are practical thinkers face troubles to do so. Fourth, narrow range of coping strategies. They may resist psychological help that feels unfamiliar, like mindfulness, meditation, and expressive therapy. They may view therapy as uncomfortable. Five, a stronger need for control. Routine and predictability often provide a sense of control. When disrupted, individuals low in openness may experience a greater sense of threat. This can lead to sorry, compulsive tendencies compulsive tendencies or rigid behaviors as compensation, especially in OCD like patterns or perfectionism related anxiety. All of this could hinder treatment outcomes in CBT, which is cognitive behavior therapy, unless the therapist solved the problem. So, what are the solutions for individuals with low openness and anxiety? Use routine as a strength, not a cage. Establish a healthy daily routines that support emotional regulation. For example, regular sleep, consistent meals, structured time for therapy homework. It helps because predictable routines reduce cognitive overload and provide a foundation of stability for managing anxiety. And you can include a small periods of flexibility in your day, like 15 minutes for something new to build openness without, you know, destabilizing your sense of control. Second, a therapist match matters. Choose a therapist who can work in your cognitive style, concrete, practical, structured. Because mismatched therapy styles, like for example, overly philosophical or abstract, can feel uncomfortable and lead to dropout. So you can ask therapists directly about their style during a consultation. And third, behavioral experiments. Test your fears in small, controlled ways to gather real life evidence. For example, if I skip my ritual, will something bad happen? It helps because